The Inquiry Club is a psychology podcast that makes research and clinical insights fun, relatable, and relevant for your everyday life. We break down the mind's biggest questions without the jargon by exploring studies through a young lens, interviewing professors and research experts. We hope to offer a home for curious minds in their 20s and 30s who want both substance and entertainment, because understanding yourself and everyone else should be as fun as it is informative. So welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about what we've been calling the small world theory, which essentially it kind of came from a space of wondering why everyone we meet knows each other, basically. And I had this experience from making these friends from church and then finding out that one of them, whose girlfriend lives in Galveston, used to room with Christina's sister's old roommate, so they'd been to a ton of the same dinner parties. And one of my good friends from camp a million years ago dated one of their good friends from college because they knew each other through the same organization. And it was just okay, I know these people so randomly, and I feel like we all have those connections that we know so randomly, but somehow end up being the most connected to you ever. And so that's almost the long-winded way of putting what is the psychology behind everything being a small world and everyone being connected, and is it really a coincidence, or is there some kind of psychology and psychoanalytical factors at play beneath that? So just to kind of get started, Christina, if someone were to listen to this whole podcast and truly reflect and think about the questions that we ask and the information that we pose, what do you think that they would gain from this episode?
Yeah, I think primarily we want to just create an awareness of the psychological factors for why we gravitate towards the people that we do, and almost how that influences the world that we live in.
That is so interesting, especially even thinking about it. I feel like when I was initially just starting to ponder this, I thought about it in the sense of okay, I keep stumbling upon these awesome groups of people, even if it takes a second to find them, somehow always end up wait, you guys are awesome, and we know this person who knows this person who knows this person who did camp with this person, and everyone's
totally.
it's awesome and so fun. But I was almost thinking there has to be other subsects or archetypes, stereotypes almost maybe, of people who within this specific social setting, they all know each other. And almost if I wouldn't cross over into that, or I may, but I won't momentarily, or I will momentarily, but it won't stick. I stick with people who I'm meeting over and over again in every season of life, every community. So it's almost interesting because I thought of that could almost be a negative connotation for some people, if they don't love the people that they're finding in every season.
That's an interesting reflection of yourself. There's this thing called the global echo chamber, and it kind of talks about almost this world we think we live in, but essentially it's really just social media is a perfect example. Is we think that we're seeing an Instagram feed that's I don't know if people think this anymore, but hypothetically representative of the people in your life or the world you live in. But a lot of times it's actually an algorithm that kind of feeds things that you already kind of care about and that you naturally gravitate towards, and then you which perpetuates a certain line of thinking, which kind of creates this interesting feedback loop where you kind of get more and more and more ingrained into this world. And I thought that was a really interesting way of initially framing it. And I think in moving to New York, it's such a interesting thing to almost view how there is literally the most diverse population here, probably in the U.S. Objectively, and yet you will find, being from Oklahoma, I will find people from Oklahoma here and somehow gravitate towards people that are more Southern, or will end up just feeling a sense of kinship. And a lot of times I've noticed that people that are from similar areas end up kind of having more relatability factors, and I think something in reflecting, I was telling Summer that I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast, and she was relating to Dax Shepard on being from kind of the Midwest. I think he's from Detroit or something. She's from somewhere similar, but
He seems
she
like
could
he'd be from Detroit.
I know, yeah.
Look at that
But,
edge.
yeah, he's got that edge, and yeah, it's like gritty, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But I remember she was explaining like, being from a small town, how her dad was a doctor, and for that reason they didn't have a minute clinic, but minute clinic ended up being in her kitchen because people would just come
Yeah.
and see the doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that created for herself, like her mom was really involved in all the volunteerism kind of throughout the town. But how that reflected back to herself was that she viewed the world, or like viewed herself as someone that always has a part to play. Like when you're in a small town, you feel the need to be involved and to be an active participant in what's happening, because that's how things get done. And I loved just hearing how she reflected, because it made me think about the ways that I find a lot of kinship with people that are maybe from the South, for example, in New York, because of the maybe initial warmth. Or I think in the South there's kind of this desire to want to make a connection. If I meet someone in the South, we're trying to find like whose brother we both, who's like brother, sister's friend I know, like, and we kind of like that.
Yeah.
And
it's fun to play the name game. Like I love
like
getting
it's
to like the
fun to play the
commonalities.
name game, and there's like this inevitable desire to be relational and to convey like connection through like emotion and through story. And I remember even one of our friends, Madeline, when she lived in DC, and we were talking about how she loves to have people over to her house for dinner. And in DC and like in New York, that's really not common, because a lot of people meet for drinks or go out to dinner. But we didn't like that because it felt so cold to us. And
It's like
you're in
sterile.
it feels a little sterile. Where just being in someone's space, you kind of just already get to know so much about them, and you kind of feel more relaxed because they're more relaxed, and no one's like, someone actually has to serve and host, and so it builds a bigger bond of like care. And it was just interesting to relate on the ways that we felt why we gravitated towards I don't know, certain people. How do you feel you see that for yourself in Dallas?
I feel like I'm similar of like finding the commonalities of like, I was telling Christina this when we were talking through our research, but it's like I'm fully 24. I have no interest in talking about sorority experience or camp experience or high school sports or anything like that. It's like that bears no representation towards my identity now. But when you have those things to relate on, I just feel like the conversation is so much warmer, and there's so just instant chemistry, instant you hit it off. Oh, you probably know this person, or if you don't know this person, then I know this person that's 4 years, blah, 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 like ahead of you, or like X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. Like, it just feels so much easier to get to common ground, which is interesting because we referenced, I think it was one of the second or third episode, the science of good first impressions. And my biggest takeaway from our research with that was the fastest or the best way to make a solid first impression is to get to the sincerest connection possible as soon as possible. And I feel like having, like similar backgrounds or similar like life experiences sets you up just to like have so many more connection points. And I've been listening to a lot of Vanessa Van Edwards, like it's like Psychology of an Awkward Person, I think, is like she like grew up super awkward, and then now she has what is it, not
I think it's called the
composure. Or her executive presence is incredible. Like she has an incredible
she has like one of the
executive
most viral TED Talks.
One of the most viral TED Talks. She's so successful. Like, she speaks with such composure, such presence. Like, she's so warm and, like, communicates competence and warmth, like, really, really well. And she always says, in building relationships or meeting friends for the first time, or you're at a party or you're on a first date, you want to have as many Me Too moments as possible of just finding commonalities, because every Me Too moment almost draws a string between the two of you of care or understanding, that it's, even if you're not really interested in sharing about your past, or even if you don't feel that connected to that version of yourself, having more, oh my gosh, I do that too, oh my gosh, I went to that camp too. Oh my gosh, I have a friend from Tulsa too. Like, it's almost a bid for not necessarily connection, but a bid for care or understanding, which is
Yes,
so interesting.
yes.
Um,
And I think we talked about this, that it makes you feel more safe. And so
yeah,
when you feel they have a certain level of understanding, you're not having to necessarily depict everything about you. I was thinking
yes,
about like even going on dates can be really interesting for the first time, because like when you're going on initial dates, because really you're having to talk about yourself. The other person's
hmm
hopefully asking you questions about yourself.
I feel
Hopefully.
like that's the dream.
Um, you know, but then you have to then like share almost like a stance on something, or like this is who I
Yeah.
am. This is my like hometown, and how it's interesting in that way. Like when
Mm,
you have someone who has a lot more shared experiences, you do less of that, and you
yeah,
can kind of go to probably secondary, almost a more depth
yeah,
in conversation, because you don't have to, you kind of like actually have to know what someone does for work, or like you do
uh-huh,
have to like know where they're from, or like some, like certain things that will
yeah.
build to be more interesting, but they kind of start a little bit like, yeah, I've had this conversation.
Oh, superficial, like a million times.
Yeah.
It's so rehearsed, it's so robotic. I think it's Vanessa Van Edwards who talks about the like pyramid of conversation and connection, and it starts
Yeah.
the base is small talk, so like everyone starts with small talk, but the dream is to get enough Me Too moments from small talk that you can move to tailored talk, which is the second tier, and
Mm.
that's more like, oh, you're really into gardening, so am I. Have you tried X, Y, and Z? Oh, you're really into
Yeah.
running, so am I. Are you training for any big races? And like that's where people start to connect actually a little bit more and like are less drained by the conversation.
Yeah.
And then the like top of the pyramid is deep talk. So it's when you pass through tailored talk, the next like step that you get to towards like actually building relationship and community is like deep talk where you feel confident and secure to like
Yes.
voice your more vulnerable or like your, less whatever, like
Yes.
composed thoughts almost, which is so
Yeah.
interesting to like talk about confidence in conversation as like a means for the small world theory, but it's just
Hmm.
interesting how like foundation and base of like culture, religion, geographical proximity, life experiences sets you up for so much more
Hmm.
success within conversation, essentially to be able to hit it off with someone and like be
Yeah.
able to have a sticky relationship that you both like want to keep investing in.
Yeah. And it's interesting because uh you did the 6 degrees of connection, or six,
Hmm
that whole thing came from essentially we can always find a connection, I guess, is maybe even an interesting point when you think about meeting diverse people or being in any sort of setting. Like
Yeah.
there is scientifically a way that you could connect
hmm
to someone you know. This man
So
named
interesting.
Tim Milgram, he was one who kind of conducted the initial study that led to like, oh, you're 6 degrees of separation from like any other person. And then like
Yeah.
everyone's hyped because they're like, I'm 6 degrees from Beyonce or whatever. Like,
Yeah, it's like that's
and
huge.
literally that was like such an unlock for like I think everyone.
Yeah.
Um, Not that anyone's doing anything with it, but even how
Yeah.
he did it was super interesting. Um, it was called like a chain letter experiment. So in the 1960s, they sent a letter to randomly selected people in Kansas or Nebraska. And then they had one specific person who was the target in Massachusetts, that each
That's
person
so
had to,
interesting.
I know, it's a really
I've
creative
never heard this. I like
experiment.
have heard the 6 points of connection, but I haven't heard how they did that.
Yeah, how they did it. So each person had to forward it to someone they knew on a first name basis, hoping that it would reach their target eventually. And
hmm
the result was that through all these different letters that were sent out, it always took about 5 or 6 people on average to get to the target.
That's
And so
so
that's
cool.
kind of how the popular 6 degrees of separation idea landed.
Yeah.
I guess meant they said there was caveats. There was many that were never completed. It was like
Okay.
29 in one variant, and then the study like also had like limitations that it's more of like they you can't say like empirically or like scientifically it's like proven or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's been interesting. Even like statisticians or like mathematicians kind of have even looked into it too, and
hmm
they just said essentially like we have 6 degrees because individuals balance like it's almost like a cost benefit of maintaining social ties. And so it creates this like web of people that we like to keep around us,
Mm-hmm.
like a social structure, so that
Mm-hmm.
like the average path will always kind of lead to a certain scale in that way, or a 6 point scale to getting to someone else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought it was interesting to know almost the background of
Yeah.
and to think about this is kind of in some ways encouraging that you could always find some point
Mm-hmm.
of connection, and actually it doesn't probably not going to take that long to get
Yeah.
there, to find someone that at the very least like maybe I don't know about Nebraska or know someone in Nebraska, but
Mm-hmm.
I knew someone whose best friend was from Nebraska and they told me
Mm-hmm.
that they like to farm. So what do you know about farming, being from Nebraska?
Yeah.
Like, and you can kind of like find
Have
a
fun
reason
with
to
it.
connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought
That's
that was
so
really interesting.
interesting. No, that's really cool. And it's also just interesting, in specifically thinking of the small world theory, you're saying these people all have like a cost benefit analysis for keeping these relationships or for at least being on a first name basis with these people. And so it almost reinforces the idea of you find people similar to yourself or similar to the people that you've always found, because those are the people who are like consistently benefiting like you investing in your relationship in. So like whatever
Yeah.
your like overarching long goal is, like with
Yeah.
your relationship or building your community, like the same types of people are probably benefiting you. And so that like makes sense that you would keep
Yeah.
those types of people around. But that's almost kind of funny because I'm like Vanessa Van Edwards' biggest fan this week.
Yeah.
I think I literally watched like 4 podcasts of hers last
That's
week, and they're
fun.
all 2 hours long, so that's intense. But just this is such a
But honestly, they're
sidebar.
so fun. They're so
They're
fun.
so fun and they're so
Everyone go listen to
interesting.
her. She's fab.
Everyone go listen to Vanessa Van Edwards. I love her. But she talks
I
about
definitely
breaking the script with conversation. And it's kind of fun because now I'm
I
thinking
do
about
that,
it
yeah.
through the lens of the confidence that having a mutual connection or shared almost credibility of I feel so credible when people know what school I went to or know someone else who went to that
Yeah.
school or know at least a few details about me. Because I do being respected, obviously, but I also really, really, really value being silly. And so it's
Yeah.
a
Well,
balance
those
of,
are not at
well,
all
not
mutually
mutually
exclusive.
exclusive. We were just talking about this, that my worst fear is someone perceiving me as unintelligent. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I feel like
Don't call
balancing,
somebody ditzy unless you want
don't
to
call
be
someone
on her.
ditzy, you'll get it. Which I know that sometimes I can be a little ditzy. I recognize that, but it has
Yeah.
such a negative connotation to me that I can't tolerate the
Yeah,
feedback.
don't.
But essentially, it's like how to break the script or like be silly with someone. Which is, I'm saying this because like I like the validation of like being credible, so I can be like
Mhm.
silly and like push boundaries in conversation of, oh, I've never been to Nebraska, but my cousin's from there. Like, what do you think of farming? Or like being able
Yeah.
to push like the a different type of
Or like, what's the
conversation.
weirdest thing you've done on the farm? Like, or
What's the
what's the
weirdest
weirdest
thing
thing?
you've done on the
Yeah.
farm? Something that if
I
someone
thought
had
you'd
no
ask like a question
backbone
like
for
that.
you.
Yeah.
I know. I was just trying to think of something that I've asked recently. I can't. Nothing's coming to mind, but I do asking kind of interesting conversation starters. I recently asked
Yeah.
someone. They moved back from Chicago and minorly referenced that they moved back because of health issues, and I was so came on so strong. And I was like, wait, so what kind of health issues would make you move back from Chicago to Dallas? And that's we had like an hour and a half long conversation about like his specific health issues. I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. But such an
Yeah.
instance where like
And
pushing the envelope or asking an
it is such a
unexpected,
more
like
fun conversation. Yeah.
such a more fun conversation and so much more interesting than just saying like, oh,
He's
I've
like
been good, the
traumatized.
move has been good. Yeah, literally, it's like I'd rather hear that, and we're gonna walk away so much more connected and a part of
Yeah.
each other's spheres if someone has like the social courage to break the script out of how are you? Good, just busy. Oh, I'm great. How are you? It's
Hmm.
such an interesting conversation, but
Hmm.
having a little bit of commonality, one gives you the credibility to be able to push the script without not like damaging your reputation, but still being like seen as competent in their eyes.
Yeah,
And then
totally.
also like obviously gives you the context to be able to like ask questions about. Like I feel like I've had instances
And
where I made
uniquely, I think people that ask the best questions often have the most social credibility because they can like really
Mhm.
curate and steer the conversation. And
Yeah,
so I
and have the
find that,
rapport.
yeah, they build rapport and connection from
Mm.
facilitating it in some ways, which I think is interesting. But I think
Yeah.
if we go back to kind of what we were talking about, like the similarity, there is like similarity, what's it called? That like there's this idea that like similarity leads to attraction
Hmm.
and even it's called the mere exposure effect isn't necessarily that, but it's
Yeah.
like seeing someone repeatedly in romantic studies, but this
Hmm.
in like a certain romantic study that people that would see someone more frequently would start to like them more.
Love.
And
That's so
yeah,
funny because you should be liking the people that you're bumping into.
hopefully
That's
around. And the whole
yeah.
part, the psychological kind of ideal behind that is that their repeated presence creates a perceived similarity that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you're the type of person that likes to go to a coffee shop on a Friday and like be social,
Yeah.
same. Or like, you're the kind of person
Yeah.
that, serves at church and I serve at church and that's really
Hmm.
attracted to me. So like we probably have similar values or like,
Hmm.
you're the kind of person that likes to work out and run and I like to work out and run. And so it's
Yeah.
like, that's funny because it's the exposure isn't necessarily the thing. It's like, oh, the perceived similarity within the exposure is what's
Yeah.
drawing you closer. And I think it makes sense where, like, in smaller spheres, when people just lived in their teeny little plot of land and you would just see the
Hmm.
same people, like, people just get married so much quicker, like, so much younger, and just like they would
Yeah.
end up just who you were around was like who you hung out with. And
It was available to you, and that's your
yeah.
world.
And that's your work
Yeah.
in like in school, why it's kind of fun to see we always talk about class friends, we say loving our class friends,
Love best
but
friends.
just why it's so fun because you see them every single day. You're gonna find most people like to find some sort of moment of connection or ability
Hmm.
to, I don't know, like, yeah, and even the similarity
Banter,
being like in the same
thrive.
class, like you chose this builds this kind of
Yeah. We have a
similarity.
similar
But
interest of some kind.
yeah, and I think something I was really pondering is do we actually attract people similar to us?
Hmm.
Or do we just notice them more and therefore kind of then are attracted? I think it's a little bit of both. But
Yeah.
I think it's that, when we were 16 and then you get a car and you get a specific kind of car and then you see the same car
Yeah.
everywhere and prior you
Yeah.
didn't notice it at all. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of that same thing where there's like two, when I was researching it, like two kind of biases that take place when we're at least first meeting people and the
Hmm.
whether we're noticing or just being attracted to them without
Hmm.
even noticing it, is that like we're biased to notice similarity first. So that's kind of like a cognitive state where I'm from Oklahoma, so if I see a girl in like an exercise dress, I'm like, they gotta be from Oklahoma. Like
Yeah. It's
there's
like you
something,
get it.
and there's like it's there's a phenomenon that really talks about because I guess they had people in a study like they would have to hear about their life and they essentially like told them characteristics about themselves that was the like person they were judging or something or scoring for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and then that they always end up scoring them higher. Or there's this like oh, it's so interesting, it's called um what's it called? Oh, implicit egoism, and
Oh,
that we like
interesting.
things resembling ourselves. And so it's the I.
Yeah.
And this is honestly like I don't. I think this one is a little bit. I'm more cynical of it, but it was just really interesting reading about it. That it's this
Yeah.
idea that we're unconsciously drawn to people, places, and things that resemble ourselves, and even in
Yeah.
trivial ways, they can trigger more positive almost feelings because we
Mm.
associate them with our self concept. And so
Mhm.
it's this like self association bias that we have. And
Mhm.
in the study, they were kind of asking like, do people gravitate towards life outcomes that resemble their own names or initials, which is like really niche.
Interesting. That
And
is
what they
really
found was across many data sets that people, for example, like disproportionately lived in cities that resemble their name. Like there was a larger amount of Lewises in St. Louis. Like that is an actual
that's
example. Or
insane, actually.
people like to marry others whose first or last name shared initials.
That's
And
so
I'm like
interesting.
thinking about, I was like, I could not think of one example though in my own life where I was like, is that like, I don't know anyone that
Yeah.
that's the
I'm
case.
thinking about it in the sense of like how you end up marrying people who look like you. Like, have you seen those
Yes.
types of studies? And
Oh,
like,
100%.
yeah. And like my roommate Sydney and I always play the game. It's like I have a rounder face. Like I don't have necessarily like chiseled cheekbone
Yeah.
energy. I'm consistently attracted to guys with rounder faces, and she has like cheekbones, and she is like
She's gotta have those
consistently
cheekbones.
attracted to cheekbone boys. And so
She's
we're
gotta have
always like it's such a thing with our friendship that
that's
she's like, well,
hilarious.
you think he's cute, he has a rounder face. Like I didn't really think he was that cute. He didn't,
Yeah. Well,
it's like,
honestly, sometimes even when I see a couple and they look alike,
and they
I'm
look
like,
alike.
well, they're getting married
No, I know. I'm like,
because,
that's endgame. You guys
and that's
look
an
alike.
endgame couple because they look
Yeah.
like
Because
they
they
could be
look
siblings.
alike. No, genuinely, I
Crazy.
feel the same way. And then I see people who they don't look alike at all. And I'm like, I hate to be this way, but I'm not going to be surprised if you guys break up. Like, I hate to speak such negative energies
No,
towards your guys' seemingly loving relationship, but you guys look nothing alike.
but that's real.
It's just
Well,
like,
the last
it's
one,
so
okay, the last one.
trivial.
Oh, sorry, go.
Oh, I was gonna say it's so trivial, but it's so interesting that of your own life, of like your own implicit biases. And I think
Yeah.
that an element of it is because you fight for so long to be comfortable within your own skin. And
That's a
so
good way.
you have already justified so much of yourself to other people. You're not going to be
Yeah.
hard on someone else about like your
Oh,
own maybe
100%.
insecurities.
Yeah. That's a
So
good way
maybe
to put
that's
it.
like
Yeah.
where you're less critical of,
Mm-hmm.
other things because you've already justified it with yourself.
That's so true. And I think something that they even noted too is like these positive associations are with ourselves, but also like self symbols. So things that resonate with being like a Go Pokes, like being from OSU or
Yeah.
a cowboy. Well, Go Pokes is a saying. I don't know.
I go
But
post.
like I've never seen a Go Poke before, but
You're looking at one.
but you're looking at one right now.
That's true. That's so
And
crazy.
it's so crazy. But I think I talked about this on a prior podcast. Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast
Mm.
and Slow, which I like is the holy grail.
Really
But
love, yeah.
we love him. He talks about like intuition being actually pattern recognition, and that like a situation has provided a cue and this cue has given, for example, for an
Mm.
expert like access to the information that provides the answer like super fast. These are like
Yeah.
unconscious things that happen. And so
Hmm.
intuition more or less he depicts it as recognition. And
Yeah.
so I think when we kind of have he for example, he gave this example of a firefighter that they sense danger even though they
Mm.
couldn't really articulate why, and they called everybody out, and then like seconds later like the building collapsed. And
Mm.
really what he didn't, when he went back and kind of thought through it and was asked about really what were these indicators, that it was like the
Mm.
floor was about to collapse, was that the fire was very quiet and his ears were like particularly hot, and anytime he'd been in a circumstance like that, the floor had fallen or like some sort of collapse was like on
Oh,
the way.
interesting.
But like
Yeah.
he wasn't consciously thinking that. It was his brain being, I recognize this. I've
Yeah.
been here before. We got to get out. And
Yeah.
there's this thing called like kind and wicked environments where like a kind environment's one that is similar, it can be repeatable, it's formulaic in a sense.
Hmm.
So that could be being a dentist and performing a surgery. There's like a
Mm.
specific kind of criteria for like, what you need to do, how you are successful, but like a wicked
Hmm.
environment is like alternately like one that's you're a trader or something and like the market's always changing and this isn't like necessarily something
Yeah.
you've seen before, and
Yeah.
you have to be like extremely adaptable, and like success means being able to adapt versus kind
Hmm.
environments, whatever. So
Yeah.
I was thinking about this in the sense that like intuition, it's kind of similar to kind environment, and that we will often think we someone just because you click, but
Hmm.
really I think one of the biggest insights is that it's actually just something familiar. Or I think about
Yeah.
even in romance how a lot of people just have a gut feeling, and
Hmm.
really what they mean is oftentimes they're seeing things in themselves that they like,
Mhm.
or things that they've seen in the past that they
Mhm.
or haven't liked that make them maybe
Yeah.
without even processing it, like note that it probably would or wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And
Because
I think even going
pattern
back to people that I'm like
recognition.
immediately loving, it's like, oh, there are very underlying things that are similar to
Yep.
me, which is kind of
Yep.
crazy.
Which is
Which
what
is
I told
kind
you.
of like implicit egoism a little bit too.
True. What is it? It's the Freudian theory. It's called repetition compulsion, and it's when you repeat previous scenarios subconsciously to process the
Mm.
event, and that can be in like
Oh,
almost positive or negative connotations. So like
what do you
you
mean by
may
that? Like,
consistent
give an
like
example of that. What does that mean?
like repetition compulsion, romantic like partners is a really easy one to look at of just like
Uh-huh.
finding the same maybe attachment style over and over again because your
Okay.
brain knows how to process the information of it. So even if you
Okay.
can recognize that that wasn't the most beneficial relationship for you, it's familiar to you. And so your brain thinks
Okay.
that
Yeah.
it's easier to understand. But what I think is actually happening is Meg J talks about it in the defining decade. We've spoken about it before, but the
Yeah.
neural pathways of your neurons and whatever dendrites and the receiving everything is like the way that your brain is processing the information is trying to do it with the least amount of glucose as possible as a survival
Mm.
mechanism, as like
Mm.
survival of the fittest, trying to make the quickest decisions possible. Like it's
Yeah.
very
It doesn't want to work
biological.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't want to work hard. Your brain wants the easiest decision possible. And like the ages of I think it's around like 4 to 7, and then again from 22 to 27 is the most like
I don't
neuroplasticity that
understand
your
this.
brain will scientifically have. I know it's literally
Run.
crazy. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. But like that's why people try to teach kids languages during those windows.
Mm-hmm.
Like the school that we
Mm-hmm.
went to started like 10 million immersion programs starting in
It's still
kindergarten
10
to
million.
learn
Yeah.
Mandarin Chinese because they're like
Literally.
that is like the most neuroplasticity you're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
until you're 22 to 27 is the second highest window, which is
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because well it's important for your 20s to recognize that you have the most like ownership over reforming those patterns as you do,
Mm-hmm.
or else like it's kind of like your brain is processing like receiving the information and it's gonna take the same path every single time to get to the same
Mm-hmm.
type of
It's just
result.
gonna reinforce, not that you couldn't change it later, but the reinforcements of those pathways are much
Of the pathways.
stronger.
Yes,
Yeah.
and your brain, because it's the, most energy efficient way to understand the scenario, is dating someone like you've dated in the past, even if that's
Yeah.
not the best for you, but your brain isn't having to form new neural pathways. So that's like what it likes the most, which is
Yeah.
important to know for your 20s because we're in a window of like high neuroplasticity. So you can date someone else and your brain can form new pathways and
And
you
it's highly experiential, I feel like, in your 20s
highly
and
experiential.
30s.
Yes, exactly. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like you can make differences with it, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to, it's like a conscious bias type of thing where you have to know that that's why you're seeking out the same
Yeah,
toxic
it's
friendships or
always,
the same like
yeah.
attachment theory. It's like you want to stop dating avoidant guys, but you're like
Yeah.
attracting avoidant guys because that's like what your brain knows how to
Yeah.
process
And
versus
you've
like maybe
never
down
processed
something else.
why. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like
never
you've never
processed
like
something else.
recognized it as like a repetition compulsion, which is
Mm-hmm.
like I think that scientists literally they've been seeing it for forever, but it's like a Sigmund Freud theory, which is
Mm-hmm.
super interesting. And again, just like almost reinforcing that like it happens in really positive ways, and it can also happen in really negative ways too. That you like need to be really mindful of the
Yeah.
friendships that you're seeking out or why you're seeking them out. Is it a
Yeah.
thing of comfort or is it a place of like oh we click really well based off
Yeah.
of X, Y, and Z experiential things. But another thing that I thought was super interesting that I was thinking about when we were researching this is another shout out to Dr. I don't actually know if he's a doctor. No, he's a lawyer. But Andy Urich.
Yes.
Really, the
Mm.
professor that Christina and I always reference that we loved his class in college, and then I got to TA for him for a few years. But he calls it crampers, and I wrote down what it is. I had to find it in like the school newspaper article from 2004 because I couldn't find it. But a cramper
Perfect.
is culture, religion, advertising or mass marketing, media, parenting, education, and relationships. And so his argument is that there is free will, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
be aware of your crampers to intentionally be cramped by other things, or this is so crazy, or
One
you're
way or
gonna
another,
make
we're getting freaking cramped out here.
either way we're getting cramped. But it's like you have to intentionally, like if you wanted to make a decision different than like the what the robot version of you would do almost, then you have to like intentionally be cramped by something else to like expose your
Oh,
brain to
totally.
other media, like other parenting, other religion, other media consumption, other advertising, to be able
Yeah,
to make a different
totally.
decision, because the version of you that's cramped by this like set of information is gonna make the same
And
decision
cramped is,
over and over and over
just for
again.
clarity, it's just like being influenced by that in like
Yes,
an
yes. It's like
okay.
the kind of almost like the
I took this
metrics
class, so that's
for,
awkward that I don't remember.
no, that's what I said fair. I think about it like too often. But like it's like to be cramped is like to be influenced, yeah. Of like what's kind of built your world perspective. And I can go through the list again.
Yeah, go
Now
for
that
it.
I've explained it better, but it's your culture, your religion, the advertising or marketing that you're exposed to, the media you consume, the parenting
Totally.
you experience, your education, and your relationships. And so the framework is essentially that, like, when you're exposed to this set of information, you will make the same decision over and over and over and over again,
Yeah, that makes
because you're
sense. Yeah.
making the best decision possible with the information that you have available to you. And there's no timeline where you're not influenced by this environment specifically. So in order to make a decision that's different than like the robotic version or like the no free will version, you
It's
have to
like
see
you gotta change either your way that you interact with marketing or advertising. So it's like, okay, I
yeah,
gotta not be
your
on my phone a
media.
certain amount of time, or I need to not go on this website as much, or so I don't get
Yeah.
advertisements, or I need to interact with my parents in a different way, or I need to
Yes.
reflect on my experience with them growing up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I need to seek out different education. I need to seek out different relationships is the only way to change, like kind of almost like this set of like instructions it almost feels like you're following, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. I always call visiting my sister my religion and politics retreat, because we always somehow end up talking like exclusively about religion and politics. That she has this big argument for why there is no free will. And essentially, that's her argument, is like you're exposed to this information over and over again. And like her experience with it is that like I think that it's like her story is that she was like an education major going into school, and then she changed her mind, and then she ended up majoring in Chinese and economics and whatnot, that like got her to where she is now. And she always says like there's no universe where she makes different decisions than that, because she made the decisions with the information that she had available to her, and there's no timeline where there's different information available to her. So she's like, I could live life a million
Yeah, it's
times and I'm
interesting
gonna
theory.
make the exact same decisions every single time. And it's her argument for why there's no free will. I obviously do believe in free will, so I
Yeah.
like don't believe in that. But
Yeah.
I agree that like you're exposed to this set of like whatever, and if you're living
Yeah.
on autopilot and you're not like intentionally being exposed by
Yes.
anything else, then you're gonna continuously seek out the same everything. And your world is gonna be tiny because you're seeking out the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun to think about like exposing yourself or like
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be cramped by something else,
Yeah,
you
because
know?
I think the alternate perspective to even, I mean, I think even as you were saying, I was, oh, well, so many people have had that same thing being influenced, but they didn't necessarily make a decision that influenced. A decision was made for them, or
Mm-hmm.
like they moved. For
Yeah.
example, I moved from North Carolina, and I wasn't like that was chosen for me, or like certain people have to go to a certain school and that was chosen for
Mm-hmm.
them, or
True.
or certain things that are hard. So it's like, well, yes, we all have the same kind of like thing put in, but then at the same time, a lot of things are chosen without our ability of choosing
Yeah, it's
them.
not an
So
intentional like decision that you're taking ownership over. You know, it's not you're
yeah,
having
which I guess
come up.
alternately she could argue then, and that like reinforces like that you didn't have control over it, like, and that's not your free
Yeah.
will. But I think that I don't know, that can
It's
go deep and deeper
interesting.
and deeper, but it's a fun
I
thought.
know. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Whenever we had the conversation about it, I was literally wearing like a full like royal purple pajama set basically. It was like yeah, my like hadn't gone out of it. And she's like such a persuasive debater. Like she's just so articulate and like she's my
Yeah.
muse. I love her to death. But it's so
Yeah.
frustrating to argue with her because she like makes such good points that I just don't agree
Yeah.
with.
You're
And
like,
so
I
I'm
need to
gonna
sit on this and come back to you.
I
Yeah.
know I'm gonna like what's that?
You're like, I
Like
don't agree, but I can't tell you why.
I know, but it's so interesting of like okay, there is like a degree of truth to it of like a
Hmm.
lot of people don't like intentionally pursue self-awareness or intentionally
Hmm.
pursue like perspectives that are different than theirs. So if you continuously live in your echo chamber of the same crampers you've always had, you're gonna
Hmm.
continue to like fall down into your spiral of like your small world. And it's kind
Yeah,
of fun
totally.
that like you can expand your horizons and make the world a little bit bigger and meet people and, you know, cross culture over and everything. But it's just funny that it's not an accident. You know, like it's
Y-
funny that it's not a coincidence is always kind of what
Yeah.
gets me.
Yeah, totally. This is an interesting conversation. Honestly, sometimes we start these, I'm like, I don't know where this is going, and
I
we
know.
have we general things we look at, but this has been a really thought-provoking one. I think in a way I wasn't even expecting, which is fun.
I know. I kind of love it because it's kind of a little bit more conceptual of like what even is
Yeah.
a small world theory? Like why would that even
Yeah,
matter? But
that's a
it's like so much
theoretical
more.
framework, and
Yeah.
how is it relevant necessarily to my life? And I think there's something to be asked about whether you, maybe this is for, we're a good place to end it for the
Mhm.
listener, is whether you like the world that you live in,
True.
and whether your small world, knowing that it is in some ways an echo chamber, is it reflective of, the world that you want to live in? And
Yeah.
you can always change that. So that's exciting
Yeah.
as well.
And yeah, true. It's like, what are you being cramped by? What are you pursuing? What are your repetitive compulsions that are
Hmm.
like preceding you in your
Hmm.
relationships and your career and your, you know, just like day-to-day influences?
Hmm.
And if you like it, amazing. How could
Yeah.
you challenge
Because
yourself
I
to
was going to say,
expand
I feel like
them?
probably a lot of people don't want to live outside of their sphere. I would argue it's so much more fun to at least try to, but then at the same time,
Mhm.
I gravitate towards so many of the same people. So
Yeah. Or
I'm aware
even
of my own
maybe
biases in it.
I feel like the thing that I'm walking away with the question is like, if I can connect with everyone, why don't I? And like
Mm, that's a good question, yeah.
paying attention to like, okay, I continuously seek out the same types of people, but like I really pride myself on having like deep relationships with very different types of people.
Yeah, me
And
too, yeah.
so even
Mm.
just thinking about like, I don't know, like we always talk about like your school friends, like your class friends versus like your like like your weekend friends,
Yeah.
and almost of like I think that maybe like my brain categorizes people based off of like how I meet them. So even if we have deep relationships, but they're different than like how I
Yes,
would
that's true.
associate a weekend
That is
friend.
true.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is like terrible. People have
I
told me
know.
since sophomore year of college that like you need to stop putting friends in boxes, and I'm like, but it's so much easier for me to understand. Like I'm such a better
That's
friend.
funny.
But it's so interesting because like why would I approach friendship in that way when I do believe that I can learn something from everyone?
Hmm.
Like why does my brain
And we
like
are interconnected in some way, yeah.
yeah, like and you have so much to offer my life. Like why does my brain want to categorize you as like we connect but we're slightly different? You know, it's like
Yeah,
what's
totally.
the you know
Totally.
like what's the truth there, like what does that expose about myself and how I'm approaching friendship
Hmm.
that like I can either seek to understand better or like process through and see how it
Or
might be
use it
holding me
as like
back.
a explanation for
Hmm.
why there's a barrier there that we don't need to necessarily cross.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when like you can fully like know who you are, know your small world, know who you connect with, and like approach every single friendship the exact same, and then
Yeah.
see where your small world takes you.
Word.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
This was a fun one. I had a ton of
I
fun.
know. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys on the fact check.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the fact check for the psychology behind the small world theory. Okay, well, to get started, Christina mentioned the concept of a global echo chamber, and to expand upon this, the echo chamber is a communication metaphor describing environments, especially online, where people's existing beliefs and assumptions are repeated and reinforced through exposure to like-minded forces and filtered information. So over time, this can shrink our sense of social reality. So it's an everyone thinks this way type of false consensus bias, or fuel tribalism or identity-based grouping that prizes belonging over truth. And it can also reinforce confirmation bias, leading to a polarized version of reality, just being reinforced with the exact same opinion, but thinking everyone else has it too.
Sweet. Summer mentioned Vanessa Van Edwards and her work on communication and mentioning of Me Too effects. This TED Talk she referenced is the TEDx London talk, You Are Contagious, How Friends' Moods Can Affect Your Own, and in several of her Science of People keynotes in public speaking. And then so Summer also mentioned a pyramid of conversation and connection, and she referenced, I think you originally referenced that Vanessa also said this, but Dr. Alison Woods Brooks said this on her Mel Robbins podcast, and she describes this as a pyramid of conversation. So starting with small talk as the base, that's the safe surface level exchanges, and then moving upward towards deeper, more vulnerable topics that build genuine trust and connection. And this framework builds on her broader research on conversational receptiveness through her studies and work at Harvard, which examines how open-minded language and active listening fosters empathy even in disagreements.
Perfect. So
This
Christina,
one's getting me off the island.
yeah, this is crazy. But honestly, I kind of have a similar situation. I'm like, Vanessa Van Edwards didn't say that. So Christina mentioned Tim Milgram's small world experiment, where 6 degrees of separation was coined. This was incorrect. Stanley Milgram, not Tim Milgram, conducted the experiment. Tim Milgram, according to Google, is a dancer. Not a
I
psychologist.
honestly want to just like crop it out. It like makes me feel so uncomfortable. I don't even know how my brain can make those kind of leaps. Like it scares me because it just makes me think, what else have I?
What else have you
I know
done?
for a fact, one of the fact checks where I was correcting myself, I said the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's cool.
Oh, perfect.
Something
We're gonna
to
get
know.
canceled. We're spreading so much false information.
No, stop saying that. Well, at least we go back and correct.
Like, clearly. Does anyone even make it to this far along for us to correct us?
I don't know, guys. Like, it's fine if you're off.
It's a broken system. We need to come up with some kind of situation for any kind of island, or we need to at least start keeping notes on that. I'm gonna start keeping notes today. You getting voted off is
okay.
The day when I start keeping notes.
I'm starting? God dang.
I know. And then Christina also mentions the similarity effect, which fuels attraction, which was originally coined by Byrne in his 1961 study. So to expand on this study, he invited participants to complete a survey of their attitudes, and he told them about a stranger who purposely either held similar or dissimilar attitudes, and then he asked how much that participant liked or evaluated the stranger. So the core finding was that participants rated the stranger more positively, or liked them more, judged them more intelligent, moral, adjusted, when the stranger was described as holding similar attitudes. And Byrne also proposed that similarity in attitudes acts as a kind of social reinforcer. So we like people who confirm our views and thereby reduce cognitive dissonance to reinforce like our own self-views. So the study is brief but seminal, launching a large body of research exploring how similarity in values, personality, interests, backgrounds, etc. contributes to interpersonal interaction, which is so interesting. And I wonder like how far that expands to like disposition and stuff. But okay. Lastly, Christina mentioned concepts of wicked and kind environments, and this concept was originated by psychologist Gary Klein and his work on naturalistic decision-making and expertise, particularly in high-stakes environments like firefighting, emergency response, and military operations. So kind environments are those where patterns are regular, feedback is immediate and accurate, and outcomes are predictable, allowing people to learn from experience effectively. Wicked environments are those whose patterns are irregular, feedback is delayed or misleading, and outcomes are uncertain, making learning from experience difficult. This framework is often cited in discussions of intuition, expertise, and pattern recognition, such as Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow and Range by David Epstein. Christina's 2 favorite books.
My 2 favorite books. Honestly, I feel like this year I've read more of my favorite books than ever before. Maybe it's just like in a category I really love, but
Hey,
I've been loving it. Every single thing I've been reading is a banger, except for this book that I'm reading right now, but no worries. I won't talk about
Present
it.
company excluded.
Okay. I can't tell if it's called Lincoln in the Bardo, and I can't tell if I think it's genius or if I'm like, this guy just scammed everybody and made. It's like when an artist in the MoMA has like a line and everyone's like,
And you're like, am I stupid? Or
yeah, I probably am. And it's basically he like tells, it's the story of, it's kind of like a historical fiction, which is not normally my vibe, but it's about Willie Lincoln, who was Abe Lincoln's son that died prematurely, and then Lincoln would, I guess, go visit his son in the graveyard, but it's kind of about like the ghost in the bardo, so bardo is like the middle ground, but it tells it like almost like a play, and then how its story tells like the carrying through parts are quotes from other books, so there's never like a continuous descriptive narrative.
Oh, interesting.
Which I find it sometimes interesting to hear like the other author's way of writing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like, it's just so like whiplashy. You're like, what the heck is this?
Is this even a book?
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm like, is this a play? I don't even know.
I think I might be reading the play, but it definitely has other books in it.
That's how I'm going to describe it to someone and hope they understand.
It's like, you get what I'm saying, right? And everyone's
and
like,
you know.
No. Okay.
Okay, anyway. Okay, for the final one, I'm going to reference Sigmund Freud's theory, which was established in 1920, that described repetitive compulsion as the unconscious drive to reenact or revisit past experiences, even when they produce distress, suggesting that human behavior is not solely guided by pleasure, but also by compulsion to master unresolved conflicts.
Very interesting.
Anyways, that's what we got.
That's what we got, y'all.
That's what we got.
Summer,
do you want to tell your drone story?
Yeah, I can tell my drone story. I was telling Christina this story yesterday, and I referenced it as the new worst thing that's ever happened to me.
It's so crazy.
It is literally just action.
I was trying to retell it, but it was just... Yeah, I couldn't do it justice.
Every third time that I tell it, I'm like, maybe that's not a good story. But when I put my back into it, I'm like...
which number is this? Are we on the third one?
I know, so if it flops, everyone just know that I've been
It's just the third cycle of...
It's just the third cycle.
So
Catch me in person and maybe I can share it better. But essentially, I fly a drone every wedding day, and I've only ever had one really bad mess up before, which I literally might have talked about on the podcast. But I had my new worst mess up ever on Saturday, which was a complete and total disaster. It's genuinely the worst thing that's ever happened to me ever. So basically, it was an outdoor art museum wedding, and it's November, so we're past daylight savings time, and so we never got to do any kind of like establishing shots with the reception while it was light outside, because we had to do like a ceremony.
An establishing shot is kind of those drone shots of the pretty landscape,
drone
right?
shot, the like reception
kind of the middle
setup,
building
there. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it was like gorgeous setup, so it's like we need a shot of that, but it was like, okay, we're just gonna have to do that in the dark later when people are in it. So the stakes are that I'm flying my drone at night, flying it in the middle of downtown Dallas, and then also with a ton of tree coverage. Scary. So I'm immediately having problems with
giving secret agent.
Literally.
You saying that?
Hey y'all, I'm a wedding videographer.
I'm gonna clip this and say, what is, like, are you an FBI agent, or what occupation does someone really do?
Yeah.
I did see a LinkedIn, I don't know if I should be saying this if I become one, but an application for psychologists to join the FBI.
Oh my gosh, you would slay that.
The one thing is I can't tell a secret. Or you can't keep a secret.
You would have to have a slight
So
personality change, but other than that, you would completely slay it.
I'm never meant to be like secretive and elusive, but I would be the one you would never suspect
You'd be the one you
because
would
I'm,
never suspect.
I don't
You'd
know.
so be the one that's like
Think
living
about
in
it.
suburbia with like a gun strapped to your leg, and everyone's like, "That's our super normal and awesome, cool
You're like,
neighbor."
Christina, you're wearing skin tight jeans.
Yeah.
We can see your gun. I'm like, "Frick."
Shoot, wrong pants. But
Okay, keep going. Sorry. So summer.
essentially, I like already had problems
So
with
that's kind of what summer's
calibration,
up to.
figured that out, and then I was flying it, and you know, obviously I'm moving it back because the whole thing is that the entire dinner is happening right here, and I'm right here trying to fly it through trees in the dark, and it was a disaster. And so, but my whole fear was like, I just can't land this like on people, basically. Like, and normally when I fly it at night, I just go straight up and straight down because it's just like scary. And the gimbal calibration was off, and then the wind was super strong. So I got it up too high, and the wind just started like taking it. So
Oh
already,
yeah.
this is the first time I'm doing this, and it's bad off the bat. Like, it is already a complete and total disaster. It flies back, hits this massive tree, falls all the way to the bottom of the tree, which is already a disaster. Like, that is already gonna go ahead and be the worst thing
It's
that's
like
ever happened to me.
nice.
Yeah. And it fell completely to the ground, which I've only ever landed in a tree once before. And when it happened, it got stuck halfway
Got
down,
stuck,
and I
yeah,
had
I
to
remember.
run out to the tree and shake it like this until it fell. And my hands were legitimately like bleeding after. But so it fell all the way down to the ground. And something in my brain was like, you didn't get the shot, do it again. And so it's like, even though I literally just had this disaster, I was like,
Yeah,
I have to
that
do it
flight or
again.
fight
Like, I
feeling.
didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, like I didn't get, and I was like, any other shot, I can get like a different day. Like, I can get everything else a different day. I cannot get like the tablescapes a different day.
Yeah.
Like, that is a today thing. And so, anyways, now that it's literally just been beat up and battered for probably 50 feet as it fell to the ground, I
Yeah.
put it back in the air. And then this one's a disaster, even worse. Like, unbelievable. The camera was going everywhere. Like, it couldn't figure out where it was. It had, like, no GPS signal. Like, everything was literally so bad. And it gets up there, and then it starts freaking out that there's, like, a critical wind warning. And so it's like, you need to land immediately. You need to land immediately. So I try to tell it just to return to home, but it can't figure out where home is because all of the GPS signaling is off. And so I can't figure it out. It's up there. It's completely lost. I think I'm on one side of the building. I'm actually on the other side of the building. So I was like, whatever, like, this has to end. Like, I just can't land it on people. I'm just gonna land it where it is.
You landed
Like,
on the bride. Like,
literally, I would be canceled. Like, that would
find
be the
home.
end of my career. Like, literally so bad. And so I'm landing it, and all as it's going down that I see, like, there's people walking on the street as I'm just like landing
People
this
are probably
drone.
thinking like the world's ending.
People were
You
probably
know,
thinking
like
the world is ending. Like, this is
it's like
like
a drone's descending.
a drone's descending that unaccompanied. Like, this makes no sense. And I just made sure that I didn't land it on a car. And
Yeah.
then obviously the people walking by, like, too.
You're
I was
like
like,
landed or the road. Additional.
or the
There's so
road, yeah.
many ways this could go.
Yeah.
Like
Or like in
horrible.
between the trees. Literally my only clues to where it was that the street had cars on both sides of the road because I saw that as I was landing. And then I had a picture of the brick that the camera was facing after that. So I'm thinking that it's just like right out front of it because I saw like it passed over the roof of the building, and it's like I can't land it on the roof because I'm never gonna get that. Like, that'll be such like a bigger deal. Like, and then so I run out there. It's not in the street. It's not in the street over. It's not in the street back this way. And so suddenly and all at once I'm pulling up the timeline to like figure out how much time I have. 20 minutes. I have 20 minutes before now and parent dances, which is like obviously so important.
You can't be
And
missing
I'm
that,
wearing
yeah.
ballet flats. So there's this much fabric separating me from being an absolute track star running all around downtown Dallas with a
Dallas,
flashlight on the
yeah.
ground looking for my drone. No luck. Literally no luck. I called 2 of my friends, and it's the kind of phone call that you pick up and you're like, no, this is an emergency. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
funny. No part of this is
Yeah.
funny.
We were
Like,
talking about whenever you say this isn't funny, it just like you're like, don't even try.
It's like when you're 5 years old and you're like getting choked up, like you're like, no, it's fine. It's like, no, it's not funny. Like, this isn't funny. It's like just
You're like
such a
signaling,
disaster.
I might cry, and also don't even try to joke.
Also, don't even go there. Like, I literally can't. I ran so many laps around, and I'm like such a freak running around with a remote controller in like a long
Yeah.
black dress and ballet flats. It's literally like,
Such a confusing scene.
yeah,
No
it's like,
one's
what do
ever seen that
you
before.
think? No. And no one ever should again. Like, it was like I fell out of a simulation. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't belong here. Like, none of this is making any sense. I call my two friends, they're like on their way, basically immediately. And then they start looking around everywhere. And it's like, okay, now we have three people looking around everywhere. No one can find
There's a
anything.
search team, yeah.
It's like search team energy. And then my roommate Sydney parked, kind of had a moment where she was like, wait, this like kind of looks like the brick from the picture, like it might be right here. So she like gets out and like looks around a little bit, doesn't find it, gets back in, is like figuring out how to pay for parking, and then is like, okay, like let's time to go look, and basically turns and basically steps on the drone. Like, it, she happened to park directly next to
Such a
it,
blessing, yeah.
which is such a blessing. And it was like the most confusing thing ever, because I was like freaking out, and then she just texts like, wait, I think I found it.
But I found it.
Yeah, like, just like
And then you have
so,
to,
like, just right here. But
I
the
know, and
kicker,
you're like, oh, anyway, yeah.
yeah, I know. I was like, wait,
It's the come down of that,
are you serious?
which you like really can't come down, even though like crisis is averted.
Crisis is
Yeah.
averted, but like in the chillest way possible. But the whole like creme de la creme of it all is that it was literally like a block and a half away from where I thought it was. Like, I
Yeah.
genuinely never would
It
have
was
found
so
that.
far.
I was
Yeah, that
so
sounds like
far.
close, but that's not, you mean that
Yeah,
was
like
really
a
far.
block and a half on foot. It's like the building that I was in, another building, another building, another building.
Yeah.
Where it is.
Drone.
And then the worst part of it all is that I got online to like edit from it the other day, and I guess I left a recording, so I have a 20-minute recording of this grass and like me just like moving the camera around to like try to get a better picture, and then all of a sudden like you literally just see a hand come.
You should get that clip.
And I'm like,
We
that's
would cut
actually
it for the
funniest
pod.
thing I've ever seen in my life. So that every time that people keep asking me how my weekend was, I'm like, oh, it was terrible, and I'm referencing that 20 minutes.
Yeah. You're like, don't make me expand upon it, but
Yeah, I'm like, I just almost lost my entire career, which it's like,
which is no, you didn't, but it feels it's just such a those moments too are so crazy because it's such a parallel of the most perfect day of someone's life, or in parallel to that, someone's having like the most like flawless, nothing can go wrong day,
nothing can go wrong.
and
Yeah.
like on the back end, so much is
like,
going wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're like running with the remote control through Dallas.
literally. I saw this thing that was like telling people I work in the events industry, and it was everyone like clinking glasses, and then it was like actually working in the events industry, and it was a house burning down. And I was like, "Loki,
I
that is
literally
kind of how it
texted
feels."
Summer this week and saw this meme, and I think I just texted you, Loki, this is your job. And it's like having so much fun, like the
Smiling.
torment,
Yeah.
yeah, smiling,
Being cool. Having so much
being
fun.
cool.
The torment.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, that's kind of your job,
I
honestly.
know.
But honestly,
I
it's like
love
every job. But yours has such a specific cycle to it that's like,
It's such a specific cycle, and it is cyclical, and no matter how many times I see the patterns coming, I'll freak out like it's the first time every single time. Like, even if I'm like, oh, I think I know what's going on here, it's like, still, this is a disaster.
your body is like, no.
I know, maybe it's my repulsion and my repetition compulsion seeking out the same unresolved conflicts in every universe.
Dang. Freudian slip. A Freudian slip in our midst.
Literally, amongst us. A Freudian slip is amongst us.
Mind if I Freudian slip?
You see that like Halloween costume where girls just wear a slip dress and a mustache, and their costume is Freudian slip?
That's my kind of costume. I should have done that, honestly.
I
That's
was
the
like, isn't
vibe.
that kind of funny?
I went as a weird Barbie.
So,
And then really what that meant is that I just literally made myself look insane and put that crazy makeup on my face. And I didn't have like any of the essential elements, which were a
like
freaky
Barbie.
wig.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Barbie. And she had like this really specific dress that kind of had like the same colorings. And she's always in the splits, which I never got a picture of myself doing the splits, which is one of my goals for the night. But whatever. In retrospect.
Whatever.
God.
I
I
literally.
can always, never too late.
It's never too late. You can just be weird Barbie for your everyday life.
But I described it to someone.
Oh no, it's so unrelated what I'm about to say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, whenever my small group had a little party and I was like helping host some of the games, and we just did like modern day horror. So like for one of the charades, it was like instead of just regular charades, it was like, can we talk conversation thing? So they were like, it's not you, it's me. Like you had to like describe that or something. But anyways, we kind of all ended up hanging out, and then I just kind of like, the costume digressed, but I was stopping by another friend's party, and everyone was so full out. Like I was not expecting it because I feel like I'm such a mid person for Halloween.
Girl. Yep.
I'm such a mid Halloween girl. Like I barely try.
I know.
And I like showed up, and everyone kept asking me like, what are you? Or like trying to make guesses of what I was. And literally I was like, I used to be weird Barbie, and now the way I described it was I used to be weird Barbie, now I'm just a girl.
Barbie. Now I'm some kind of version of myself. So
I become the real Barbie. It's the Barbie movie transformation where she becomes a real woman.
I'm like if real Barbie became a real girl. So if weird Barbie became a real girl.
Literally, actually, that's kind of the most accurate.
Literally, so
that's
funny.
the most accurate way to describe myself.
Yeah. Forget your Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. What kind of Barbie are you if you became
Weird
a real
Barbie
girl?
if you be a real girl.
Literally, I was at this Halloween party, and I was talking to this guy that was like fully in a mask. Like I could see no part of his face, and I like used the word.
That's similar to talking to people with sunglasses on. And I'm like, take those dang things off. I can't see a thing.
Take those dang things off. I can't see.
I'm actually just seeing myself, which is even crazier.
Officially, the weirdest conversation, but I don't remember which word I referenced. I either referenced neurotic or conscientious. I referenced one of those, and then he immediately was like,
psychology
are
podcast.
You, like big on the Big 5 personality test? Like, are you really into that? And I was like, I had no idea how to respond to that. I was like, I had no idea to be like, oh, I had to research some things for my niche podcast that I started with one of my friends. And so I was literally like, well, first of all, I got the definitions wrong. And I was so confident. And he argued with me. I was like, we can look it up. And I got them. I was wrong. And then I was like, shoot, you got those right. Like, congrats. And then he was like, he was literally like, wait, but so like, why were you using those words? Like, why do you know them? And I was like, I don't know, I'm really into it.
And now you're
in a previous life is what I said. I should have been like, I should have said anything else. But I'm talking to him in a full mask, arguing, being like, you're right. And then he was like, why? And I was like,
it's like Darth Vader.
I know, I was like, I was really into personality exams in a previous life. I walked away and I was like,
you say the most elusive things. Sometimes it's so shocking. It is shocking, and they're not lies. They're just like so confusing.
It's just like, if this is your first time talking to me, you wouldn't.
He would never know, but like someone that knows you's like,
yeah.
You're a normal person, and then like if Sydney or me were listening, I'd be like,
person.
Yeah, it's so normal, but like. I'm like
to a complete stranger. I'm literally coming across as weird Barbie.
You weird Barbie being real girl. That also was your costume.
Yeah, I was also weird Barbie. That's so funny. Anytime I look bad, I'm just gonna start saying I was weird Barbie. It's like I think I was dressing up as weird Barbie that day.
Yeah, that was weird Barbie.
Well, any other fun updates, or is this the end of our road?
Only that like the New York City Marathon really inspired me and made me so impulsively, not even impulsively, it just made me like get my ish together and sign up for the New York City Roadrunners thing, and then sign up for a 5K, join the lottery for a half marathon, which I haven't trained for, and I would have to do in like 0.2 seconds.
You'd be fine. Oh my gosh, we could run over Christmas.
I could run over Christmas, yes. And life is good. I'm so excited I'm going to DC for Thanksgiving next week. So that'll be fun to see family. And then
That's so fun.
I don't know. I feel like the vibes are just gonna be really fun. And we're gonna do a cute photo shoot with my grandma and just like try to make a cute family photo. Because I feel like we're never intentional. My family like never remembers. And then we're like, wait, should we get a photo? And it's like when I'm going to the airport, I'm like, no, we can't do that.
No. That's like if you guys had some forethought, you could really be giving Ralph Lauren. So
yeah, I think that's gonna be our dream vibes. I've been pinning things on Pinterest.
Oh, girl.
And I don't know, group family shops that are kind of crazy. Like I don't know how people don't make those look like the cheesiest thing ever. And from all the examples I've seen, we have to be like laying like in like those are like the fashion campaigns I see. I'm like, I'm not doing that also.
It's literally like you can't get your father to do that.
I will never. It's just gotta be like a candid. Honestly, candids are my favorite. That's it. Like,
true.
Gotta be like eating at a dinner table.
Yeah, and like I want the picture of all you guys like petting a dog and like looking at each other.
Yeah, like we gotta be holding like a golden retriever, which we don't have one, but we have a golden doodle there. So
true.
Or we don't have one in DC.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Clarify, Charlie is still alive.
Hey guys, we don't have a golden retriever.
This is my drop.
Me dropping that lore.
Yeah.
Oh jeez.
Okay, but that's all I got.
Okay. Bye y'all.
Bye guys.